Okay, hello Cloud Gurus and welcome to this lecture. This is a theoretical lecture on CloudFront. So what is CloudFront? We have covered this off in a little bit of detail, but now we're going to deep dive on CloudFront. So CloudFront is a content delivery network, or CDN. And basically a content delivery network is a system of distributed servers or a network that delivers web pages and other web content to a user based on the geographic locations of the user, the origin of the web page, and the content delivery server. So let's have a look at what a CDN looks like. So say we've got our website which is hosted in London, and we've got our users who are all around the world. And our users, when they go to our website, they're going to go directly to London and pull that content down. So that's what happens when you do not have a CDN enabled. Basically, if you have your web servers in London and you've got all your media files, so your images, your videos, etc., every single individual has to go and essentially they're connecting into that server across the internet, and they're pulling those files down literally across oceans, and it can take time to load. So before we explore what CloudFront is and how it works, we need to understand some key terminology. I'm going to start with edge location. So I'm sure you know what an edge location is by now, but let's just explain it. So this is basically a location where content is going to be cached, and this is separate to an AWS region or availability zone. An origin is the origin of all the files that the CDN will distribute. So this could be an S3 bucket, an EC2 instance, an elastic load balancer, or even Route 53. And in the next lecture, we're going to go in and we're going to use an S3 bucket as our origin. And then finally, we have our distributions. And this is the name that's given to the CDN, which consists of, essentially, it's a collection of edge locations. So we're going to create a distribution. We'll do that in the next lecture. So let's have a look at how CloudFront actually works. So now we've got our web server in London, we've got our users all over the world, and we've got our edge locations. Now, our first user will do a query to the edge location. It will say, hey, I want to watch this video. Do you have a copy of this video? If the edge location does not have a copy of that, what will happen is the edge location will download that video to the edge location, and it will be cached there. And it's going to be cached for the time to live, which is always in seconds. And we're going to look at how we can configure that in the next lecture. So basically, it's going to be cached there, let's say for 48 hours or 72 hours. And what that means is if another user then queries that edge location for the same video, that video is already downloaded to the edge location, and that user will be able to download it a lot quicker because you don't have to go all the way to London to get it. It could be cached in US East 1, or it could be cached in South America or in South Africa, etc., etc., etc. So that's CloudFront, and that's how it works. It can be used to deliver your entire website, including dynamic, static, and streaming and interactive content using a global network of edge locations. And request for your content is automatically routed to the nearest edge location, so content is delivered with the best possible performance. So you get really good performance out of CloudFront. With CloudFront, you get two different types of distributions. You've got your web distributions. This is typically used for websites, and that's what we're going to do in the next lecture. And then you've also got your RTMP distributions. This is used for Adobe, and it's used for media streaming, essentially. So we will see that again in the next lecture. So what are my exam tips? Well, just remember what an edge location is. This is the location where content will be cached. This is separate to an AWS region or availability zone. Remember what an origin is. This is the origin of all the files that the CDN will distribute. This will can either be an S3 bucket, or it could be an EC2 instance, or an elastic load balancer, or Route 53. So just remember what that is. And then also remember that a distribution is the name that's given to the CDN, which is a collection of edge locations. And then a web distribution is typically used for websites, whereas RTMP is used for media streaming. And then finally, you should also remember that edge locations are not just read-only. You can write to them too, i.e. you can put objects to them. And we did that in the last lecture when we were using transfer acceleration. And objects are going to be cached for the time to live, the TTL value. And we'll look at how we can configure that in the next lecture. And then finally, you can clear cached objects. So you can invalidate an object, but you are going to be charged if you do that. And that's a really very important exam topic that you can invalidate cached content. So if you've uploaded something and your users are still getting some old data and you've added new data, for example, you might have added a new video and they're still getting the old video, you can go in and clear those cached objects, but you are going to be charged. It's called invalidating the cache. So that is it for this lecture. If you have any questions, please let me know. If not, feel free to move on to the next lecture where we're going to create our very first CloudFront distribution.